Well, not long now, and I'm going to set off to France. And I was thinking about what I could do to help people, and I realised that I've done a lot of travelling over my lifetime, and I've picked up a few tricks that may be useful. So thought I'd make a video on it. So firstly, I'd like to add a disclaimer. I get no concession at all from airlines of any kind. Matter of fact, I've never even been upgraded. I usually fly economy because that's the cheapest. One thing that annoys me a lot about YouTubers is they say, I'm going to tell you a secret that such and such doesn't want you to know. And on this occasion, I'm going to do just that. So my flight times from Sydney to Paris was that I was leaving Tuesday the 3rd of September and returning Tuesday the 17th of September. Now it's natural, and quite often it's the best way, that we'll go to Google. Now when you Google that flight, the cheapest flight comes up as China Eastern Airlines at $1,921. Now, I've never flown with them, but the next cheapest one comes up as Emirates, and that comes up at $2,344. So that would be my choice on that basis. Emirates is a very good airline, and as I said earlier, I'm getting nothing from the airlines at all. However, if you go to the Flight Centre website, you then find that the cheapest flight is Vietnam Airways, and it is $1,623. As you can see, that's a huge difference. But I wouldn't fly with Vietnam. That's not my choice. And the next cheapest one is Thai Airlines, which works out to be $2,353. However, if you go to the Thai Airlines app, the price is less. It's $2,338.06 for the same flights, the same times, the same stops, the same destinations, but different prices. So it's worth looking for a flight in more than one place. Now, another thing to be thought about is flights within countries. If you book a flight, say within Germany, in Australia, you'll pay a lot more for it than if you book that flight in Germany. That is something important to remember. And also, one-way flights are quite often more expensive than two-way flights. So a sensible thing to do if you're only planning to go one way, buy a return ticket, don't use the return ticket and come out dollars ahead. And that is important. Now, another thing, this is aimed at inexperienced travellers, and I know the websites that I've mentioned will not apply internationally because I know YouTube is a very international thing. But you should always look at travel insurance. It's important. A Medevac can cost up to $250,000, and not many of us have that much money just to throw out when we're sick. That's a lot of money. So make sure you've got good quality flight insurance. I went with Alliance, which I bought through my financial institution, which is the Newcastle Permanent. You may find something better, but again, shop around, you'll get a good price, and the difference can be as much as half, so it's really worthwhile doing that. Another thing to consider, not so much with France, but with other countries, is vaccinations. You'll get a card in your passport with your vaccinations in. It's worth a talk with your doctor to get something for diarrhea that you can take with you, and for headaches, because they're two likely possibilities when you travel, and get the necessary vaccinations for the countries you're travelling in a timely manner. As we've learnt from the recent pandemic, things can happen, and they're not good. And furthermore, currency. Probably one of the most acceptable currencies around the world is the American dollar. But that doesn't work everywhere. Like I was travelling to Europe, so I went to my financial institution and I got euros. I got, I think, about 2,000 euros in cash. A lot of people like to use their phones and their Visa cards and whatever, but cash is a good thing to have, and sometimes you can do a better deal with cash. One of the mistakes I made was I was using a Visa debit card and it didn't want to always work. And what happens in the restaurants in France is that you eat your meal and you pay your bill, and it's a bloody embarrassment if your card gets declined. I do need to talk to my financial institution about a better solution. Another thing I did, which will be in a video along from this one, was hired a car, and I literally was on the phone to my financial institution for an hour trying to get them to authorise the transaction to hire a car, and I couldn't do any online transactions. So ask your financial institution about that, and you'll find them to be very helpful in most cases. I hope that this advice in some way has helped you. Another thing is visas. Some countries from some destinations require visas, and it's important to get those. Most countries have an embassy represented in their country, and they're good sources of information. You can phone them, you can email them, and they're happy to help you. I'll put up a visa from when I travelled to Tanzania that I had to apply for. I could have got one at the airport, but it was much simpler to just get one before I left. As I said earlier, I am involved with affiliate marketing with Amazon, and this jacket, I find it amazingly useful. It keeps you dry, it's good in snow and ice. It's an Australian thing called a dry as a bone. Some people call them an oilskin. I'll leave an affiliate link to that, and also to my cup. And I tell you what, the skull on the face of that cup is very much like the airlines. Pirates. I haven't mentioned it, and by the time you get to the airport it's probably too late. You need a passport, and with enough time on it for the journey you wish to undertake. If you intend to hire a car or even drive, it is important that you secure an international driver's license, which will allow you to drive in a large number of countries. You can secure one by Googling the location. In my case, I got it from New South Wales Service. I understand it is also available from the NRMA. And this is also important to do before you leave the country. Well, once you decide to travel, and you have your ticket, or even before then, you've got to think about your baggage and what you're going to take with you. And this is a very important subject. To some degree it is dominated by the airlines and your destinations. Different airlines have different weight limits and baggage sizes. It's best to check on their website to see what's allowed and what's not allowed. And also there are certain things that you can't take in and out of different countries. It's important to be aware of this. They will show you basically zero understanding if you make an innocent mistake, so look carefully and think very much about what you're doing. So I'm happy to share with you some of the tips and advice that I've learned over my years of travel. Well, I really don't know how many miles this old warhorse has done. I've owned it since I was 16. She's been to Singapore, Hong Kong, Thailand, Macau, which is a country that doesn't exist anymore, China, South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Tanzania, Germany, France, and Norfolk Island. And this reflects one of my beliefs. It's always good to buy quality. Now, it does have some drawbacks and it has some good points. I don't go much for these hard type plastic molded suitcases. They mistreat them and they tend to crack and be damaged. In the case of this one, you can see that it's flexible. It has a good robust zip, and it has straps to maintain the integrity of the bag. And as well as that, it's always a wise thing to put your name and address on your bag in case it's lost. Airlines do lose bags, and on your carry-on luggage you should consider a change of clothes in case your baggage is lost. One other advantage an old warhorse like this offers is its unique appearance. It's nothing worse than your bag being on the carousel and not being able to identify it because it looks like other people's bags. I know this can't be helped because what's on sale at the time is on sale at the time. But if you do have a bag like everyone else's, a smart trick is to put a sticker or something on it so you can separate it from other people's bags. The fashion these days is to plastic wrap your bag when travelling, but I always have a padlock, and not necessarily the padlock that comes with the bag. A lot of those can simply be opened with a screwdriver. Where I was staying in France was 2.5 kilometres from the train station, or the GAC as they call it, and my 17 kilo bag was about 100 kilos by the time I carried it that distance. You'll notice this more modern bag has wheels and a handle at the front, so you can wheel it around airports. Now, I don't know that it would be robust enough to go 2 kilometres on cobblestone roads, but it is something to think about. And as I said before, the baggage you use depends upon the sort of trip you're going to do. Now, one thing, when you don't buy quality, that handle is broken, so that effectively makes the wheels useless. So you've got to think of the weight versus quality balance. There are rigid body aluminium suitcases which are particularly handy if you're carrying a lot of camera equipment, as I do. You do need to be careful not to pack lithium-ion batteries in your main luggage. As you can see from this mobile phone, when lithium-ion batteries get a little bit excited, they make quite a mess. I believe that I will even buy one of these for myself. They are perfect in every way. The rigid aluminium construction will protect the contents, especially camera equipment and such things. However, you may be disappointed when baggage handles scratch and dent them. That's something to be considered if you wish to purchase one. But take a look at the quality of the wheels and handle. I know they're not cheap, but they're a perfect bag for travel. They do, of course, come with a weight premium, but that's part of the course with making something solid. I'll leave in place an Amazon affiliate link. As I said earlier, the type of baggage you need depends upon the type of travelling you're going to do. If you're intending to do a lot of walking and hiking in bush areas, You cannot beat a backpack. This is the sort of backpack I used when I climbed Kilimanjaro. I'll leave an Amazon affiliate link for you. The weight restrictions on your carrier luggage are more severe cases than your main luggage. But this is something you can keep an eye on, and as I said previously, you should have a change of clothes. And being a YouTuber, I'm trying to carry all sorts of camera equipment around, and I like to keep it close at hand, so this represents a real problem for me as well as everybody else. I prefer a flexible bag to a rigid one, but that doesn't really protect camera equipment, so you've got to think about that. Now, what is important, not only the size and the weight restrictions, is things are compartmentalised, and you pack them in that way. You be sure that when you go to a foreign country, they'll ask you for some document that you don't have at hand, and it's quite an embarrassment to be looking for a return ticket as I was in Germany and pulling out your undies by mistake. Thankfully they were clean ones. Oh, there it is. Yes, and another thing I recommend that you pack is a notepad. You're going to get various sorts of information. I know mobile phones these days have built-in notepads, but you can't beat good old-fashioned pen and paper. Even though the COVID is pretty much over, I've packed a mask also. I'm not sure how many more years it's going to go on for, but if you need to find one in a hurry, it's best to have one with you. Now, this is a somewhat more conventional bag with wheels again. Just like your main luggage, as you cover distance, your hand luggage seems to gather weight, and the wheels are quite useful. But if you're old and you want something a little bit flasher, there's some great things on the market. I'll put an Amazon affiliate link to hand luggage that you can actually ride on. I really can't stress enough the importance of the weight of your baggage, and they will check it. And tell you what, when you see an African woman with an overweight bag in an airport, it's not a sight that you'll ever forget. But how do you know whether or not your bag is overweight? Well, when you're home, it's easy. Something as simple as a set of bathroom scales can save your life. And you can see that, well, an upside view, my bag presently weighs a whole 9 kilograms, well within the 30 that I'm allowed. Generally when I travel, I use these scales. I'll leave an Amazon affiliate link. They're somewhat more accurate than bathroom scales, who tend to weigh you a little bit light. And I just hang it here. God, is that visible? I'll try again. I'll hang it like that. lift it up, what would you know? My bag is a slightly different weight with these scales. There are travelling scales that you can buy, because even though you can weigh your bag at home, if you buy things when you're overseas, they're naturally going to gain weight. I'll again leave an Amazon affiliate link to these scales. They're only about $7 or $8. They're not that dear or anything like that. I hope that all this has been some help to you. So it's important again that you remember you've got to pack for the weather where you're going, not where you are. In my case, I went from an Australian winter to a European summer, and it was surprisingly hot. Like in Australia, we're taught that, oh no, it doesn't really get that hot in Europe. Well, it damn well does. And another useful tip is that you pack a tool to remove your SIM card, like this one here. You notice I've got it in that case. When I travel, if possible, I get a SIM card for the local country, but that doesn't really help you keep in touch with people at home. But there is quite often free Wi-Fi that you can use, and another service that I use is Skype, so I can make Skype calls to phones, which is very useful when you want to keep in touch with family and friends. Open it up, you can see that it's fairly simple. It has just two dividers, one for shoes and one for the main bag. Now it's always important to travel with plastic bags. They're good to put your wet towel in, your shoes in, or dirty clothes. Now when I pack a bag, I always go with the two rule. 2 pairs of shorts, 2 long pants, 2 jackets. I know that's a little bit hard for the ladies, and when you're travelling with ladies and customs checks your bag, it's a bit of an embarrassment to find ladies' clothing inside a gentleman's bag. And you've also got to think about, you may buy things when you're overseas, so don't pack to capacity so you have the ability to bring things home with you. One item which is very important to pack when you travel is a good set of walking boots. I strongly recommend Scarpas. I've had these boots since 2001, and on the France trip alone I walked more than 288 kilometers and didn't get a single blister. One thing that everybody talks about when travelling to France is the pickpockets, and basically they're after things of value, and they're pretty good at their craft as far as I can tell. So it's important to prepare for this and protect yourself the best you can. Now, I don't think I'd be wearing a Rolex in full view while walking around any of the tourist sites in France, because you may not keep it. I got around the problem by these special trousers. You'll notice that they have zips on every pocket. In fact, there are too many zips. You put something in and you can't find it, but I guess it leaves the pickpockets guessing as well. It just makes them that little bit harder to pick your pocket. Some gentlemen carry like a sachet bag around with all their valuables inside. I don't really like this solution, but you know, it appeals to some, and what works for you is best for you. Something always important to remember. And thankfully no pickpocket got me, but I do know someone who was a former US Marine in Turkey, and they did manage to lift his wallet. Quite often what makes a good trip is planning. Indeed, anything in life, good planning is always a sensible step. In this day and age, we have access to an unbelievable amount of information. When I was young and you were planning a trip, your only possibility was to visit a travel agent and they'd give you brochures. And sadly, those brochures in a lot of cases were not very useful. They were mainly concerned about places where you can spend your money at, like accommodation and things like that, instead of the very things that you're going to see. But that was not always the case. I got these two brochures in the 1990s, and I still use them today. Principally, they're about what is there. Now, in the case of Google, it too is concerning itself purely with getting you to spend money. Like if you take your phone and you Google something like Eiffel Tower, the first thing that comes up is a tour at over 100 Australian dollars. Now, I climbed the Eiffel Tower, I didn't even spend 30, so that's hardly good advice to work from. You've got to be very careful about that sort of thing. When I plan a trip, I certainly use Google. I think it's a great resource, and I prepare a written itinerary, which is also a sensible thing to do, or a type one for that matter, if it better suits you. It's always good to have plan Bs in place for different things that might happen, and when you go to a new and interesting place, you'll discover things that you didn't know, things that weren't on Google, or things that the locals will tell you, or things you'll find yourself. So that is always an interesting thing to explore. To get the overall picture, I like a good old-fashioned map. You can see everything, all the detail is there in front of you, where Google Maps does not do that. Like if we enter Paris into Google Maps, we get a picture like this, and as we zoom in, we see that more and more detail is revealed, where I understand that's because of the size of screens, but it's good to get the overall picture. Now, don't be mistaken, I'm not against GPS. I remember the world before GPS, and road trips were absolutely terrible. Well, I hope you got something out of that, and if there's anything else you'd like to know, please leave something in the comments. I'm only new at this, and if a video is within my means to make, I'll be happy to make it. If you enjoyed this one, please subscribe, and for my next video I'll be going to France.